Well, it's 6:30 in the evening on the 21st of August. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Mr. Stephen, can you give us a prayer, please?
Heavenly Father, we are blessed, and we know you bless us, and we're blessed to be a part of this community. We thank you for the families that live in this area. We continue to praise you for neighbors and people that care about one another, and we're glad to be a part of it. Now we pray, Lord, that as we go about the city's work and we make decisions, we pray you give us wisdom and discernment of what would be the right, and guide our steps, we pray, and be glorified in our lives. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Please join me in a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Hall.
Here.
Councilmember Chapman.
Here.
Councilmember McMahon.
Here.
Councilmember Hefner.
Here.
Councilmember Brooke.
Here.
Councilmember Rubel.
Here.
We have a quorum. Thank you very much. Council, first on the agenda is review and approval of the council meeting minutes for July 17th, 2023. They're provided to you. I entertain a motion to approve as presented.
Motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next on the agenda is department reports and financials provided to you. I entertain a motion to approve as presented. We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is the Planning Commission report. Mr. Peters.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members.
Are you tearing up our stuff?
I tore up your mic. Let's get that thing up there. There we go.
It's kind of like a bull in a china shop?
Yes. Okay. Last month we held our regular scheduled meeting, and along with two public hearings. During those two public hearings, we addressed the short-term rental, non-custodial short-term rental, I should say, was one of the areas that we discussed. Several people commented. Overall, pretty much no one had a problem with it that I could tell. And the other public hearing was the rezoning of Highway 38 from Ferguson over to basically over to United Methodist Church from R1 to C2. We had a lot of people in attendance. There were some positives, but they were mostly people still opposed to the whole idea of having commercial there in their area. Then we went on to our regular scheduled meeting. During that period of time, we were updated by the mayor about the UDO and how it's been sent to Metro Plan, and we expect it back fairly soon, I would assume, given that they do it. Do they do that for free for us, or do we have to pay it?
No, sir, it's for free.
No? Well, then we'll wait.
We pay dues.
Yeah, but I was going to say at least we can wait for them then a little bit for that. The second thing that we discussed after that was the rezoning. During that period of time, there was more testimony given. When it was done and over with, the Planning Commission had turned down the rezoning request 3-2. At that point in time, I was informed that they were going to withdraw the request, so there is no action needed to be taken by the City Council whatsoever. The next thing that was on our agenda was short-term rentals. We approved the short-term rentals. It all went down 5-0, just the way it should. So that is probably up for your vote tonight. I'm certain that it is. And so I would encourage you to take a look at that and make sure that we do that, because I know, especially with the coming of the I was going to say equinox, but the eclipse, I know that we're going to have more requests for that. One of the other things that we were dealing with was from Alicia Newby, and she was looking to put an in-home daycare center into her facility, and we tabled that because she was not there to make a presentation. So we expect her back next week to be able to make a presentation, hopefully. I know that we'll wait and see if she arrives this time.
I will tell you, she will not. My understanding is she has moved.
Oh, she's moved?
Yes.
Okay. Well, then I guess we won't deal with that then. All right, thank you. Then we looked at the conceptual design for Wilson Loop, done by Tim Lemons. And the idea is that this is a piece of property that does not really allow you to build homes on two sides of the road. So it's kind of a different thing, but he can still probably put in about 20 homes, I guess, along that whole stretch, and it will match up later on. That road will be brought in to connect, I think, on Moon Road. Is that correct?
Moon Road Extension, yes.
Extension, okay. And so it was something that we looked at, and they just brought it to us to give us an idea of what they're trying to do so that they can make any corrections. And there were several questions that brought up by the commission, particularly about wetlands, water, and drainage issues and things like that. And Tim and the property owners have agreed that they're going to come back and they're going to address those things the next time they come. We also got the final plat for the Plex subdivision, which is right over here, I guess, over on this side. There you go. Get turned around in here every once in a while. But anyhow, they have submitted it. There was only one thing. We did it conditionally. The only thing they were missing was their fire hydrant, okay? And that really wasn't their issue. They had to wait for that to be brought in. So we did approve their final plat based on the fact that they'll have a fire hydrant there at the same time. And I've gone by that property, and they're doing a very nice job of developing that particular area. Let's see, what else did we do? Okay, we also had, the mayor brought up the Planning Commission creed. And basically, it's a creed, it's almost like the Hippocratic Creed, and that is that we're going to be honest, we're not going to influence, and basically we're not going to have ourselves put into a position that would compromise the city or ourselves on behalf of anyone here. And that is still being done. We did all sign it. I don't know if you have all those things, because I don't know, maybe it was in the packet that was delivered today. I don't know that. I know that they said they were going to try to get us a copy of it. We all signed that and returned it. The last thing we did was announce all of the things coming up, and we went and adjourned, and that's all we had for the last meeting. And I will take any questions if anybody has one.
Well, I guess, a couple of actions made. First of all, the conceptual drawing of the Moon property will be in front of the commission this month.
Yes.
They've actually bought the land next to it, so it's now going to be two sets of houses with a street down the middle and sidewalks and everything. So that'll come to you
as things change before I even know it. All right, good.
It'll come to you as a preliminary plat. Now, the Plex subdivision, that's the four plexes over there.
Yes.
That's right. All right. This council needs to approve your recommendation.
The final plat, and we did approve that. It was 5-0. Everybody approved it, needless to say, and so that would require some action on your part.
So, with that, I entertain a motion to approve the final plat as approved by the Planning Commission.
Motion. Second.
Okay, so a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I had a question. So is this is multifamily?
Yeah.
Are they going to be on both sides of, they're going to have like a road in the middle and be both
Yes.
sides?
Yes,
How many
sir.
units are we looking at?
Yes, sir.
How many units are we looking at there?
There's maybe 20?
Right.
20 units, I think, is the total in that small
And the
area.
delay on the fire hydrant is RDOT.
Yeah.
RDOT commission
And
will cross.
we don't, RDOT doesn't go to our drummer, okay?
So, but we're fine with that, and all. All right, we have a motion, second, we have discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, final plat's approved, and you can sign the document.
All right, thank you.
I have a question for you.
Okay?
The engineers that we voted on earlier, who were they? Do you remember?
Engineers?
Yeah, for the city?
Bond, Crafton Toll, Half Engineering, and one other. I'd have to look at the resolution.
Okay.
That's what I was trying to locate.
And that was for what?
To use for the city for engineering services.
Well, and it gives us some flexibility because we have some engineering things that we need to check on. And so by not having just one engineering firm, if we don't know that that's totally one correct, we can go to another engineering firm that we have already approved so that we can have that work checked.
Mr. Bond and I have discussed entering into a contract with them on this UDO coming up, entering into a contract with them that they will be our on-call engineer for reviewing subdivision and other plans that are brought before the city council or for the planning commission.
Okay, good.
Any other questions for her? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Any motion to approve the planning commission report as presented by Mr. Peters?
I make a motion, we approve the planning commission minutes as given by Mr. Peters.
We have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is old business, second reading of ordinance 2023-14. Would you read the title, please?
An ordinance to define loud and unnecessary noise that constitutes a public nuisance to the citizens of Ward, Arkansas, establishing prohibition and penalties with respect thereto, repealing and replacing Ward Ordinance 2001-04, and for other purposes.
Council, I'll open the floor for any discussions on this. Hearing none, is any public discussion on this ordinance? If so, would you please approach your mic and introduce yourself and your address, please?
Good evening. My name is Austin Briley. I live on 12 Ferris Street, Ward, Arkansas. Today I stand before you to strongly oppose the passage of the proposed sound ordinance, which raises concerns regarding its practicality and effectiveness, particularly in the context of the presence of a nearby highway and railroad. As we discuss the potential impact of this ordinance, it becomes evident that it may not make sense given the existing noise levels brought about by the highway and railroad. The proposed sound ordinance seeks to impose restrictions on the noise levels produced by vehicles, targeting modified cars and potentially inhibiting our ability to express ourselves and enjoy our passion for automobiles. However, it is crucial to consider the larger context in which our community exists, with a nearby highway and railroad running through our town. The noise generated by the highway and railroad already significantly contributes to the ambient soundscape in the community. Placing additional restrictions on the noise levels of our cars without considering these external sources seems disproportionate and impractical. It is essential to recognize that the noise produced by modified cars is often a minor fraction of the overall noise landscape, especially when compared to the constant noise generated by the highway and railroad. Moreover, it is important to differentiate between the legitimate concerns of noise disturbances and the individual rights to personal expression and enjoyment. While addressing noise concerns is essential, regulations should be fair and considerate of the unique circumstances of our community, including the presence of the highway and railroad. Implementing an ordinance that disproportionately targets car enthusiasts without accounting for the external noise sources risks unduly restricting personal freedoms and the ability to enjoy our vehicles. Excuse me. Instead of imposing blanket restrictions, let us foster an open dialogue, education, and compromise among community members. By considering the larger context and engaging in collaborative efforts, we can work towards developing regulations that strike a reasonable balance between noise concerns, individual rights. This can involve initiatives such as noise mitigation measures near the highway and cooperative efforts to establish guidelines for noise management. In conclusion, I urge each of you to oppose the passage of the proposed sound ordinance, recognize the impracticality of restricting car enthusiasts' rights given the presence of the highway and the railroad. Let us stand united in advocating for fair and contextually appropriate measures that address noise concerns while respecting individual freedoms and the unique circumstances of our community. Thank you.
Thank you for your input.
You forgot
Any-
about dogs.
Any other public comment on this ordinance? Hearing none and hearing the public comment on this ordinance, do you have any further discussion? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2023-14 on its second reading.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, we have a second,
Second.
and we have a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hall,
Yay.
Councilmember Chapman,
Yes.
Councilmember McMahon,
Yes.
Councilmember Hefner,
No.
Councilmember Brooke,
No.
and Councilmember Rubel.
Yes.
By my count, it's 4-3, 4-2, excuse me. Obviously, my count's off. The measure carries, and we'll move forward with this on its third reading next month. Next on the agenda is City of Ward Drainage Report. Mr. Aaron from Bond Engineering, I think he has a copy of the report for y'all. This is a drainage report that we had contracted with Bond Engineering several years ago.
About a year ago, yeah.
Right. And a $20,000 project that, I forget what agency, ADC, I believe.
CAPDD.
Well, the funding agency.
Oh, yes.
In any case, they paid $15,000, we paid $5,000, so, anyway. And he's here to present the report to you. Floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. I know y'all haven't had time to look at this. I want to thank you all for, entrusting us and providing you with this drainage report, which is the first phase. There's actually a second proposed phase of a drainage report. I'll just kind of give you the highlights of this report. If you'll just kind of look with me here on the first figure, past the introduction, you'll kind of see the outline of the city limits. And then after that, we start getting into the drainage areas. Ward is broken down into essentially 8 separate drainage areas, which you can look over on figure 2 and actually see the different drainage areas, how it's all broken up. If you look at table 1, you will actually see the different drainage areas and the amount of land area that is within each one of those, along with the average terrain slope of those properties. The slope of the property is important just because you can carry more water with a greater slope than you can when it's flat. And then we'll start getting into some of those optics whenever we get into the phase 2 drainage report. Also, the city actually has 3 major tributaries. That's 4 Mile, Mill Creek, and Cypress Bayou. 4 Mile and Mill Creek actually drain into Cypress Bayou, so Cypress Bayou is the largest tributary. If you will go on over, I don't know why these don't have pages on them, I apologize for that, but if you go past the second figure, you will see we start addressing the floodplain areas in table 2. And figure number 3. So we've identified all the floodplain areas within the 8 separate drainage areas within the city, and tried to actually quantify how much floodplain is actually in the city limits within each one of those 8 separate drainage areas. And that's explained, like I said, and tableized in figure 2 or figure 3 in table 2. As we get into section 3, what we were tasked to do in section 3 was to actually read over your ordinances and your subdivision regulations to determine the requirements that y'all have set forth on development within the city, if it's actually adequate, if it meets current design standards. There's a lot of back and forth in your regulations that address storm drainage and floodplain and floodway. For the most part, everything runs parallel with current design standards. There are just a few areas that need to be cleaned up. It kind of needs to, really that report needs to, or that ordinance needs to be condensed and a little bit more straightforward. You kind of have to navigate through a lot of different sections and subsections in order to get the full picture. I think it could probably be cleaned up and presented a lot more cleanly. And so that's basically what a section 3 is. We broke down each one of the subsections, identified what they're looking for, and whether or not it does run parallel with current design standards. And then the conclusion is basically a synopsis of those three areas. The other thing that we did under this phase 1 in the appendices, you will see several aerial photographs. We went through and actually collected data on all of your curb inlets. Phase 2, we will evaluate the capacity of the ditches and the storm drainage infrastructure that's currently in place, detention ponds, all that. But under this phase, we actually went ahead and just collected the data where all the curb inlets and all the low points are located. And that is my report. Unless y'all have any questions, I'll be more than glad to try and answer them.
I will tell you that this comes at as a good time because we can incorporate some of the language into the UDO that was currently being worked through MetroPlan, and make sure that the drainage portion within that UDO matches with your comments, going forward, and cleaning up the language. Of course, we will go away with those 2 regulations that are currently from 1993 and modernize them. But we will take a look at the UDO draft and make sure that our language in it dovetails off of this and cleans it up. But I think it's a great report. It's the beginning. We'll go ahead and reach out to the funding authority on this after this was actually closed out, and see if we can get funding for additional phase 2 on this and press forward.
Thank you. Do y'all have any questions for me?
Any questions?
I have one. Is there some place we can go to actually look at these aerial pictures? Because my eyes are really bad. I can't read what that stuff is.
The mayor will actually be getting a larger print that will be put on foam core. So it will be a much larger, something like what you have hanging up on the wall over there.
We'll probably hang it up in here.
You can hang it up in here.
Okay, so I can take pictures with my phone.
There you go.
For the FEMA firm maps, where can we get those at?
Sorry.
For the FEMA firm maps, where can we get those at?
Well, you can actually pull those off the FEMA website. All you gotta do is go to FEMA.org, and you can search by city, and you can put Ward, Arkansas in. I actually bring a interactive map up. You can click on that, and you can download the attachment. The city should have firm maps actually on record in City Hall somewhere.
There was one that I was wondering if the gray, figure 3,
Yes, ma'am.
is the gray where it floods?
That is the floodplain.
Okay.
So that is the 100-year floodplain as defined by FEMA.
Okay, so we got 98 years, right, for the next one.
Unfortunately, it doesn't work quite. The terminology of years is very misleading and confusing, but it's not actually. It's going to happen once every 100 years. It's a 0.01% chance of it happening.
I'd definitely be dead by that time.
We had one in 2012.
We're due, I guess, unfortunately.
unfortunately.
Any other questions, comments? If not, entertain a motion to accept the drainage report as presented by
I make
Mr.
a motion, we accept.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is ordinance 2023-06. Read the title, please.
An ordinance requiring the registration of non-owner occupied short-term rental facilities within the city limits of Ward, providing for permit requirements, rules for operating a short-term rental, and for penalties and fines, and for other purposes.
Council, we've talked about this before. We've had public meetings and brought it back. We've had more public meetings on this, and this was actually, as if you recall, a topic of discussion to the state legislature this past time, as the state was trying to really lock down cities' ability to do anything with short-term rentals. There was a lot of backlash on that. They ended up pulling their proposed law, but it's probably going to come, no, it's going to come back at the next legislative session for those type of non-budget in 2025. In the meantime, majority of cities in discussion with the Municipal League are working out some kind of short-term rental regulations in their own cities to get a handle on this. And before you is one that has been worked through Municipal League and also Planning Commission. Like I said, we've had public hearings on this, so it's up for your discussion tonight. I open the floor for discussion.
The planning commission voted 5-0 on that.
All right, yeah. Because it's a change in the zoning regulations, the use of short-term rentals within particular zones, it has to go to them, it has to go to the short-term, or to a public hearing first. But yes, they did. Any public comment? Hearing none, any further discussion on this? If not, entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2023-06 on its first reading. I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
I just,
Introduce yourself, please.
my name's Tommy Bradbury.
Sure.
I'm just asking, what would it take to get a copy of that?
Oh, absolutely. It's on our website, it's on, I think it's on the Facebook page, but certainly wouldn't make it.
Okay.
Or you can have this one.
Okay.
Here.
Do you mind? Thank you.
I looked on the website, I see it, but,
Thank you.
Anyway, there, you have a copy.
I make a motion that we approve.
Okay, we have a motion on the table to approve
Second.
and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Chapman?
Yes.
Councilmember McMahon?
Yes.
Councilmember Hefner?
No.
Councilmember Brooke?
No.
Councilmember Rubel?
Yes.
And Councilmember Hall?
Yes.
Orders 2023-06 passes a 6-2. 4-2. Man, wasn't me in math tonight.
That new math?
It's new math. Man. Carmen, never mind, I'm not gonna say that out loud. Anyway, it passes with the correct amount of votes. And we'll move this to the agenda for next month for second reading. Next on the agenda, whether I count or not, is Resolution 2023-21. If you read the title, please.
A resolution authorizing the mayor and/or city clerk to enter into a contract with Telecomp Holding, Inc. for a new voice-over internet protocol phone system for the City Hall complex.
I make a motion, we accept Resolution 2023-21.
Well, I'll open the floor up for any discussion first. Hearing none, any public comment? Hearing none, now I'll accept your motion.
Anything to save money.
Okay. We have a motion to approve Resolution 2023-21. Do I have a second?
I second.
And roll call, please.
Councilmember McMahon?
Yes.
Councilmember Hefner?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooke?
No.
Councilmember Rubel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hall? And Councilmember Chapman?
Yes.
Resolution 2023 passes 5-1. Very good. Takes me a while, but I got it. Thank you, council. Next on the agenda is discussion of the creation of a youth council. Municipal League has been pushing this pretty good. There are several cities across the state have implemented, others are in the process of it. I was executive committee meeting the other day with the Municipal League, and this is a topic of discussion at that level too. So, meeting or so ago, Councilmember McMahon was tasked with learning all about this. The floor is yours, ma'am.
I don't know how much the floor is mine. What I'd like Project to do is to bring it to the council next meeting, because I would like to start it like in January, so that we can meet with the schools and find out how we can get it out to all the schools and to homeschool co-ops, and then kind of go from there.
Okay.
I know who a good contact for that would probably be Derek Goff over at the high school. He would probably be a good contact to get a hold of.
Can you give a kind of an overview on the pros and cons and what the Youth Advisory Council does?
Well, we can utilize them in a lot of different ways. They can be used to do community service around, but also too they can mentor and shadow with different business owners and people in the government. Everything that I went to and what I read, it's something that kids can obviously put onto their resume for college, but also too it's a good way to engage kids in the community that don't have a place to engage per se. If we started in January, then even during the summer months, we could do some specific things throughout the summer for those kids to be involved.
Yeah, we could build the community center back here on the concrete pad that was originally meant for community.
I mean, honestly, that's something that that youth board could do, some different things like that. That's part of theirs, is the engagement of youth with everything. So.
Very good. Any discussion?
I have a question. Is it going to require a sponsor, somebody to be?
No, not necessarily. It's pretty much already, it's pretty much already written out the way that we can do it. So really it will be just kind of filling in the, the names and the dots and the things to go along with that.
To fully implement, I think there's some ordinances we have to pass, authorize it, and things like that.
Correct.
Okay, we'll table this till, with permission. Yeah. Make a motion to table this till next month.
Motion to table.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll table it next month. Thank you, Ms. McMahon. Next on the agenda is a reorganization of the Public Works Department. If you recall, starting in January, I moved Street Department underneath Public Works, and then we're also doing some other organization I want to bring your attention to, and just reemphasize the organization of the city itself. The voters vote us in, whether you're mayor, city clerk, and the city department work for me, and then the city council and the city attorney. Yeah, you're welcome. The organizational chart it falls under me and the 6 different departments that we've established in our city. What we're working on, or what we've done on the public works in particular, is we've made like I said, we started this January where street department fell underneath public works. Well, we recently moved building inspector and the code enforcement officer underneath, and created a public works office manager, which is actually Brittany, who's also the water office manager also. She's dual-hatted on that. Eventually, we intend on moving this office entirely into what was the civic room, and now it's a weight room and catch-all room, but move it in there, where the building inspector, code enforcement, and the permitting official will be all in one area underneath the public works office manager. She'll also still have control over water office with the office manager and the water office representatives. By moving building inspector and code enforcement underneath public works, that also provides them with the ability to work under public works, because they are now doing the inspections, the plumbing inspections, the HVACs. We've sent them to school and got both Gary and Michael schooled up, or getting them schooled up and able do the inspections on new house starts and other things, which frees up water and wastewater, who has been doing it, so they don't have to do that. I just think it's a better utilization of our people. Oh, just want to bring it to your attention. Yes, sir.
I just have a question on that. How much more does that add to Bruce's plate?
To Bruce's plate, not really, because he's the foreman underneath it. Not really. I mean, we've discussed all that with him. I mean, we had lots of meetings on this and whether the pros and cons, but this would be a good idea. Does it work? Does it make sense? And from a internal employee organizational chart, it does make sense.
I have a question about the permitting official. Will they be able to do pets?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, all permits.
Okay.
Yep.
So who's the Public Works Director? I apologize, I don't know that.
Bruce
position.
Jones.
Oh, it's Bruce is. I thought you said he was underneath that. I
No,
thought he
no,
would
no.
be the one over it. I thought you were saying he was the foreman.
No, Don's the foreman. Right. And it works very, very well. I mean, now, especially on that side, there's less coordination needed if they need bodies for, like today they were out, or yesterday they were out fixing a water leak on Dogwood, and I think they had street department guys out there helping direct traffic while the water guys were actually correcting the problem. So it worked very well together.
If I can add something as far as Bruce, I rode around with him the other day and we were talking about this subject and he seemed he thought it was a good idea, so.
I didn't have a problem with it, I just wondered if it was gonna add a whole bunch more stress on him.
Don't believe so.
He's already got a pretty large plate.
He does, and the Public Works, Brittany with the Public Works Office Manager, we talked to her about this and how this would work with her, and she's fine with it also.
So under all that, like who, because a long time ago when I came to the city council, I talked about communication from the water department. Where does that fall under, like communicating to the public about problems or issues or anything like that? Does it still just fall in the water office?
Well, it does, but it also gets elevated to the foreman if need be, and to the Public Works Director if need be, or my office if need be. When we get all these new meters installed, we will be very proactive because we will be able to see daily if a meter is having a problem, and we can contact that individual right then and say, your meter's maxing out or whatever, what's the problem? Is it yours? Is it a meter problem? What's the issue? So we don't have to wait until the bill comes out.
Well, and also too, though, like I would like to know, like who do we talk to about, when I said they start work and then there's no communication, like are they finished with it? Did they get finished with it? Okay, I know I have a lot of problems out of my house for sure in between. So they hit a line, there was a line that was busted, and then they came out and dug it up, and then it stayed there, and then I didn't know whether it was fixed or not.
It was a long time ago, right?
No,
Sarah?
this was like in the last few weeks.
Oh.
Yeah. I didn't call you for the other one, but I had to talk to Bruce about to get the other fixed. So I'm just like, again, like I'm back to that. Like I just feel like the lack of communication to the public when something like that happens and you have a big hole and all it takes is a door hanger or a note to say like, we're coming back to it. I know it sounds petty and little, but it's a big deal.
Well, no, it's not. It's, I firmly believe in customer service, obviously, and transparency. And so I'll talk to Bruce and see what we can do, and Don, and see what we can do about that, make sure that if they're going to hold a hole open in a yard, that they communicate that to the homeowner as to why that's going to be and when they expect to come back. Any other comments? All right, moving forward. Discussion of purchase of a Christmas tree. We skipped the eclipse preparation. We did. I didn't put it on my slide. Well, obviously, I can't do it. All right. Well, then I'll just put this over to here. That's BS. All right. As we've talked about for some time now, April 8, 2024 is going to be a total eclipse in our area. We are estimating, some are estimating up 2 or 4 times your normal population in your area. If that's the case, we're expecting 27,000 visitors potentially to the big city of Ward. So what do? We have had one meeting so far, a planning meeting with staff, and see, these are some of the ideas and things that we are working on. And I've talked about these before, about setting up a potential temporary RV camping site at the sports complex. Tim Lemons Engineering is drawing up the draft plan, not as an engineer, but he's got a CAD system and makes it easier to draw it up. I have talked with Department of Health. We don't need to put a dump station in because it's a short-term issue, and we're not talking about that many RVs, and they are inundated with requests and other kinds of problems. There are cities who are wanting to put in temporary RV parks of 1,000 RVs. Arlo want to be much, much, much smaller than that. Michelle is working on movies in the park during this time so we can keep the people entertained down there. Maybe have a church service on April 7th. We have contracted for 20 porta potties. We were looking at buying some others because we have some need to be replaced. Anyway, we can't get any more porta potties. Fact is, our contractor, if I remember right, there's 100 entities on the list right now, at least 100, wanting to contract porta potties. There are some larger cities who are outbidding smaller entities for porta potties. We've been assured by our contractor that we're locked in with our porta potties, and we've signed a contract for 20 of them, and that's what we expect. We've also contacted our Zellas, and they're going to provide 4 additional 8-yard dumpsters at no charge to us. We haven't determined how much we're going to charge per RV campsite. We're kind of looking at how everybody else is doing. I talked to a site down in Mena, and they were charging $200 a night, two-night minimum down there. There are hay fields up near Rosebud, I think it is, $1,500 a week. It's going to be, the state is expecting 1 million visitors in the local area, which calls us to, figure out how we're going to do this. If we put an RV park out there, we're going to man it 24/7. We're going to have some of our people working overtime. So during the 2024 budget time, we'll talk about that. We talked about the police department staffing our dispatch for a period in the date of event window, 1 April to 12 April. Staffing our dispatch 24 hours a day so we can relieve a little bit of the sheriff's office from their communications on this end of the county. In fact, I believe we're having a meeting with the sheriff and all the chiefs this week, Wednesday, I believe, to discuss how they are looking at handling this influx of people and things like that. Chief is my coordinator with Austin PD and Lonoke County Sheriff's Office. We've talked about communications. AWINS, the normal radios that the police department use, may be inundated with just traffic. And the other thing is when the eclipse comes over, they may go away. There's discussion that the AWINS won't even work during that time period. Now we're at 2 minutes and 43 seconds total, but there's time period before and after. So we're looking at ordering actually 25 VHS analog digital handheld radios that can be used for this event. We also have them for contingencies. We also have them for special events. They'll work locally on a local channel. We won't interfere with the sheriff's office, things like that. So not only for this event, but we'll put them in special places and have them available should we have an event in our city, catastrophe or whatever. We need coordination and communication. We'll have that available.
Is AWINS what we just purchased for the police department?
Right, we purchased a bunch of those radios, yeah. And that's what they use. And
Yes,
if, yeah.
yes, I just wasn't sure.
Yeah, and for those of you, we've already checked, the MAC channels have already been divvied out. So there'll be no MAC channels for that time period. So it's going crazy. And we've ordered a new repeater that will handle the analog and the digital side. So we'll be all good for our communications from now and for other issues. Fire department, we're looking at staffing the fire stations with volunteers 24/7 during that time period. This is going to cost some money if we can get the volunteers to do that. My thought process is I don't want a volunteer to have to respond from their house through a bunch of traffic, more than likely, to the fire station to get the apparatus to respond to whatever. If I can man those stations for 24 hours a day for that 12-day period or less if people get out of the area after it's all over with, I think we have better response time, more ability to respond quickly to emergencies and save some lives. Because our guys, they don't have red lights on their cars and things like that to get through traffic. It's just going to be a problem. So we'll be looking at that.
They're going to be both stations?
Yes, that's our intent. That's what we're planning for. And Chief is going to be my coordinator for ADAM, the Arkansas Department of Emergency Management, and the area fire departments. We also need to discuss, and this will come for y'all for approval, obviously, but do we allow RVs to be parked in private yards for this event or in larger areas, like big fields that are within the area? Do we allow that? Do we waive the rules on parking RVs? Do we allow it? Do we permit it? Do we charge a certain amount for a permit fee? That they'd have a placard to put in the RV that it's been permitted? If my house, if I want to put 5 RVs in my front yard, I buy 5 permits, I can have 5 RVs in my front yard. $25, $50 a permit or whatever, we haven't discovered that figure yet, and you can charge, pardon me?
Only pay tax on for short-term rental.
Different story. But this is a one-time in a lifetime opportunity, and I just think we owe it upon ourselves and our city to allow them to benefit from this. The next time is 2044. Not sure how many of us will be around at that time period. So that's what we're looking at. So no decisions per se right now. City employees, we're going to ask for no vacations during that event time because probably going to need all hands on deck. Yes, sir.
Is that gonna be like primitive campsites over there? Are we supplying electricity and all that, or
No.
is it primitive?
Just primitive.
Okay.
No electricity. Well, there's water out there. Then, we'll have a hose and they can fill up their tanks or whatever. But we may or may not have a drop station, depending on if we can get it configured and how much that might cost. We could use that even after the fact. It'd be on the dump station maps or whatever, and charge for that particular service. That we're looking at. City employees may be used in other normal jobs, like manning the park 24/7. We're going to have bodies out there. May have the water office ladies working night shift or whatever at the park. Been having manning the sales tents. We have got 2,500 scent sunglasses on order. We're trying to get more, but we got 2,500 on order right now. We're looking at possibly doing some T-shirts. In fact, as I'm meeting with the Ward Central Elementary School principal soon about the kids doing a contest, and they design a T-shirt for kids and then selling them. So we're looking at that. We're looking at a couple different designs for adults. So budgeting for 2024, we'll have a separate line item budget item for park ration additional costs, PD additional costs, fire department additional costs, admin additional costs to include potential costs for overtime. So that'll come out in our budget workshop. That'll be in sometime in October probably. Marketing, like I said, T-shirts and sunglasses. We're going to have public notifications, of course, on social media website. Once we get this approved for the RV park, if we go that route, we will get with the Arkansas Tourism and they put it on their website. And people will know that we're out here and we are taking reservations. Michelle and Brittany will work up the reservations procedures and how we're going to take that. We've already, if I remember correctly, we've got a new process now for taking credit cards out of the park, so we should be able to do that with no problem. I plan on visiting each retail outlet and restaurant shortly to make sure they understand. I've talked to a couple people who are prominent in the area, and they didn't even know this was happening. I just don't get it, but anyway. And also all churches. Church may want to open up their parking lot and put an RV on. Church may want to open up and have meals or something. I don't know. But we want to make sure that they are aware, because particularly that Sunday, I'm not sure everybody's going to be able to get to church on time.
I do have a question,
Yeah.
and I have had 5 surgeries, so the antihistamine has messed up my head.
Okay.
But is this a solar or a lunar eclipse?
Solar, total solar.
What time does this happen, at noon or
Noonish, if I remember right. Is that right?
for 12 minutes?
No, 2 minutes
2
and
minutes?
43 seconds, a total eclipse.
Oh, okay.
But with that in mind, people drive for miles for this. Well, 2 minutes here, 4 minutes in Russellville.
You know what that sounds like? Oh, never mind, I'm sorry.
It is the best 2 minutes and 53 seconds you've ever had in nighttime. Never mind.
I doubt that.
I don't know. Anyway, that's what we're working on. I just want to bring you all up to date on that. Any
Mayor,
questions, any comments?
was there a possibility to set up a possible food truck court or something like that?
We are trying to get food truck, but you know what? So is everybody else. I mean, I've been in contact with other cities and
We'll do our own.
we're pretty much tapped out. We will have the concession stand. Our concession stand will be opened up extended hours. That's another, some of our employees are going to demand that. We'll have the concession stand opened up. We've got to get, start getting product ordered and stocked now. So we're not waiting till the last minute, but
What about the youth activities during that time period? What's gonna happen to that? They be suspended or what?
pardon me?
Youth activities during that time period, they just be suspended or what?
Oh, out at the park?
Mhm.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We just won't schedule ball games and things like that. We probably have, we might have a cornhole thing set up or whatever, and maybe horseshoes, but we'll try to have some fun out there. We're looking also to possibly renting a couple, 3 or maybe 4 golf carts for employees, especially at the park, to run around in. More information to follow, but I wanted to give you a heads up on our initial planning of this. Okay, next up on the agenda is Christmas tree. Ms. McMahon needs to put her Board Chamber of Commerce hat on, and we can talk about this. Go ahead.
Okay, did everybody get this?
It did.
Okay. If you'll see the Jubilee decor, those of you that went to the meeting in Little Rock, you saw the sample of the tree that was in the convention center. So the way the tree works is that you can, there you go, you can add on to it, like we could continue to make it larger. So I just got the information on the smallest tree that they had. And like Charlie said, part of the chamber, since we have that set out next to the chamber building, and we do the Christmas parade, we thought that we would like to approach the city council and the city to consider going in half with us to split the cost of this and, have something that we can work on to add to it. So we would pay half of all of that. We've kind of checked around. It's really difficult to find trees like this, and because that's an indoor tree. It's got everything on it already. It lights up on its own, and then it all just like compacts. So
How much?
You
you
got
should
a
hear.
thing right there.
It's a lot.
$9,449.
How tall is it?
15 foot.
15 foot.
Said you can add 4-foot sections each if you want.
I can add on to it. The sections add on around 2,400 to 3,500
Where is
apiece.
it?
Where,
Where would you pick up? The freight is $1,200.
they ship it here.
I know, but where could I go drive and get it and make the $1,200?
Louisiana.
Huh?
Louisiana. Isn't that where the address is?
No, Alabama.
Was it Alabama? Okay.
I would like to suggest we pay the whole thing, let them pay for the decorations.
Well,
Oh, well, okay.
well, what the proposal is to partner with the chamber, where we would pay for it up in total, and they would reimburse half to us. Because we can't do it the other way around. We can't have them buy it and us reimburse them. There's some rules about giving money to nonprofits.
Where would it be, please?
Next to the chamber building, where the current one is, that we've had fall over. We've had issues with. This will eliminate and make it a lot nicer. And then next year, if we wanted to, spend the money to put another 4 foot under it and make it even taller, we could. But if that's agreeable with the council, I'd entertain a motion to allow us to, working with the chamber, buy this Christmas tree with the understanding they will reimburse us for half of the cost.
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion,
Second.
and we have a second. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We will press forward. Next, I'm going to give you an update on our RDOT street project. that we put in, street aid project. The street aid committee had come out and met with me and Bruce, and we went and visited the areas that we had suggested, and then they came back with some additional information that they suggest. Their estimated cost, and this is estimated, this goes toward committee in December, so we don't know if we're even chosen until January probably, but normally when the committee comes out for a site visit, it's a pretty good indication that you're gonna get it. So there's $300,000 available per entity for this type of project. The estimate right now is $338,000, so our estimated city cost is about $38,000 to get $300,000, which is a pretty good deal. This is the, in the red, you see, we had suggested marking from 367 to the railroad track, Owen, and North Street. They came back and suggested mark them all the way down to Brewer, Owen as we suggested, North as we suggested, and then Moore Street in front of the fire station, Elm Street out here, and then Marshall Avenue beside City Hall right here for overlay. This is our third installment on street aid. Since I've been mayor, this is our second one. So if we get approved, this continues to overlay streets in the city, and we will, assuming we get this approved, we will put in another one and go back to back if we can. Any discussion?
Do we have any word on Peyton's overlay?
The last word I got from Peyton is it's going to start about the 1st of October in that time period.
They keep moving us back.
Well, it's on RDOT's time. It's actually the contractors on those projects and street aid also are given a wide range of time. Because they're little projects for them. And so they can wide range when they can work them out by X time. But last thing I talked with RDOT was 319 from Highway 38 to the railroad tracks should start in October.
And they're gonna cut out and not just overlay, they're gonna cut out the bad sections. And
Right,
yeah.
right. If you drive out 319 from 367 out to Faulkner County line, that's what they did, overlaid, and you gain 2-foot shoulders on each side also.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
And where does Balding come in on this?
Well, this is not a street aid. We'll talk about Balding in just a little bit.
Okay.
That's a separate issue on itself.
Okay, I didn't see it on here.
Right, because it's not a street aid project.
Mayor?
Yes.
This is just strictly overlay, there's no improvement, so there's no widening or anything?
No,
like that?
these are strictly overlays. You can, and honestly, Markham needs to be completely redone with curb and gutter and sidewalks and all that. That is probably a multi-million-dollar project for later on. This gets us down the road a piece with some, it'll be some widening, yes, but not near what we'd like to have for, in particular, Markham.
Markham needs a lot of work. That railroad crossing needs straightened out.
Mike, turn your mic on.
I said Markham needs a lot of work. That railroad crossing needs straightened out. That would save a whole bunch of people insurance claims.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen anytime soon. Any other discussion? All right, I just want to bring it up to your attention. We'll wait till January when we find out if we get approved or not. Also want to bring your attention to the Arkansas Economic Development Commission's Community Block Grant Program that we put in for. We put in an application for $500,000 on a $1.2 million project to remove the remaining houses off the vacuum system. And the total approved from ADC was $500,000. So that's good. Now, and also in this package, $500,000 is clear because they also provide administrative costs. They'll reimburse for those. And so when we contract with CAPD to handle this administration, they'll pay their costs. So $500,000 goes toward the project. What's next? We will now in turn submit an application to the Arkansas Natural Resources Division for the remaining $765,000. Bond Engineering is working on that application. It'll either be a grant, combination of a grant loan or a low interest loan at 0.04% or something like that. Very low. The WAC, the Water Wastewater Advisory Committee, has already approved this project, so that's one step forward for ARDC, or whatever they're called, Resources Division. More to come. I'll bring it back to the council when we get to that point, because we'll have to have ordinances or resolutions to allocate the monies at that point. But that's some good news. Now on to mayor's report. Construction projects. The SARTS 4 sidewalk project, RDOT has released the project to move forward. We have a kickoff meeting with Crampton Toll on August 24th at 2 p.m. And because this is a Metro Plan based project, they reimburse and or pay for the engineering fees. So that's good. Meter replacement project, we've been told there's 1,000 endpoints and meters being shipped. They should start installing those soon. And the radio relays will be starting to install soon also. So we should have some movement on this coming forward. I just talked about the community development block grant. The Baldwin Street overlay. Pre-construction meeting was held on August 14th with a contractor. Construction will begin August 28th. They'll be widening Baldwin Street from 12 feet to 18 feet. But what I do need is down from 319 to Campbell Street is 20 feet. They're going to overlay 18 feet. I need authorization for expand additional $2,000 or less to expand that so they can overlay the full 20 feet. Can I get a motion?
Second.
We have a motion second to expend additional $2,000 for this project to overlay to 20 feet instead of 18 from 319 to Campbell. All those in favor say aye. Aye. You opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. And I just spoke, the Bettys were here. You spoke for them, talked to them about if we start to get on the 28th. I really don't want heavy equipment on this road. So they're going to work now to get ready to start bringing in construction equipment off of Highway 367 in that area. So we'll keep heavy equipment off of this new road as best they can. That will help. SARTS 5 proposed. We're waiting RDOT decision on that. It's just in their hands at this point. Street A committee, we talked about already. We also kind of talked about Highway 319 overlay, starts October 9th. Also, got information about the Arkansas Energy Office Energy Performance Contracting Revolving Loan Lease Fund. What this is a program through the Arkansas Energy Office in which we contract with them to work with us to do a request for proposals to energize, bring up our city buildings to better energy efficiency. The first step is we have to develop an RFP working with them, and actually the first step is I have to enter into an MOU with the state agency so they can help us work the RFP up to get an investment grade audit. And I think you have some information we provided to you. Yeah, this right here. I'd like to explore this. I'd like to see what this is budget neutral, they call this. So what monies you save on energy efficiencies is what goes to pay the loan off, and you can pay it off early too. What do y'all think?
It's a good program. We did, I don't know if it's the same thing, but I believe it is at the church.
Okay.
And they came in and they went around the building with me, done an evaluation of our usage. And then they provided for us all new electrical, all new lighting. They brought in LEDs for everything, changed out all the fluorescents. They did a lot of other things. Any lights that we had, we changed almost every light in the building, which is, several thousand.
Cost savings down the road.
Yes, yes. And so we had to pay a portion, and but it wasn't that much. They took care of everything for the most part, just completely.
Right.
It's just that we had to pay for some of it before they sent us all the money, so it worked out. Good stuff.
Well, good. Thank you very much. If y'all are agreeable to that, I need a motion to allow us to continue to further explore this and to enter into an MOU with the state agency.
Make that motion.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Very good. UDO, it's still in Metro Plan's hands, waiting for them to do some things. And of course, now we'll look at the drainage wording in that UDO and see how it matches up against what the report said. License plate reader camera. RDOT's been sitting on this for a while. We finally got information back from them. They approved one site so far, and that's at Old Austin and Peyton Street. The other 3 sites, there was issues with how far it was. One in particular down by the dog kennel was on the railroad side, and the railroad is not going to let us put anything on that side, so they had to move it over to the other side. We're waiting for RDOT approval on those other 3 sites. The vendor is, but I think we're, working with them, this will come to fruition at some point soon. I have asked the vendor when they're going to install the one camera that's been approved. I haven't got an answer from them yet, but I did ask them if we could go ahead and get it approved or get it installed and operational while waiting for the other ones to be approved. Consolidated 911 Center, there's been no change. We anticipate some meetings starting soon. I have been in contact with the county judge and and Mayor Kincaid about getting this going again, because we have to move forward, because January 2025 is coming up soon. The broadband deployment continues. We've had some issues with contractors tearing up streets and roads and things like that, and we get with them and get things fixed as best we can. I understand that now Comcast or Xfinity is in Huntington, trying to get in contact with them. Can't find a number one at a corporate level to get in contact with them, because if Infinity decides they're bringing in cable TV services, they cannot, because we actually have an exclusive agreement with Suddenlink from years and years and years ago for cable TV. Doesn't mean they can't bring in streaming services, just not cable TV as it is.
When does that contract run out?
Probably 10 more years. But it's just for cable. Just for cable. And these contracts are done 20, 25 years ago, when that's all you had, and you made a franchise agreement. Every city has them. But again, they can come in with a stream service, but I still would like to have contact with them to see what they're doing, and they're not cleaning up quite as well as others have. So we're on top of it. We're trying to get on top of it.
Is there not something you can do for them not cleaning up?
Discuss it with them, go out in contact with them, yes.
Yeah.
But as you know, we got subcontractors with subcontractors probably from whomever.
This is First Electric.
No, this is Comcast, Xfinity. First Electric's Connect to First has still been deployed, but then Xfinity has come behind that and dragging their fiber optics through.
Yeah, and they're all making a mess over in Huntington right now.
Yeah,
They cleaned mine up pretty good.
right. I'd just be happy when they get to my house, one way or the other.
I still have a cable running from the box in my yard to my neighbor's house.
Is that right?
On top of the,
On the top?
yeah, on
Ours,
top of
we
the
did
yard.
that too.
For cable TV?
I don't know
It's
what
from
it is.
Suddenlink.
Yeah, well, I don't know what it's for, but I gotta move it out of the way to mow my yard.
We had the same thing.
I know Suddenlink is not sometimes very good at. All right, County Broadband Committee, there's no been up on that. We're still waiting on a report from Arkansas Rural Water on our rate study request. Storm cleanup. All in all, we had 144 sites that we cleaned up, 896 tons of debris for that lone storm. We did have a visit by Adam and FEMA representatives about what we had done and how we'd done it. We're very pleased at how we were handling it, and we're working with them to get the forms turned in so we can get reimbursement. If the reimbursement will either be 35% on the state level or 75% at the federal level if the federal declares it a big enough disaster, and they have not said that yet. So we're banking it's probably a 35% reimbursement, which is still not, not bad.
I have a random question talking about
Sure.
the storm stuff, the cleanups. Some of the people who've had damage and everything, is there like a limit on how long they can take to make repairs or do things?
To their homes?
Well, if, for example, if someone's fence was knocked over and they propped it up.
No. There's no limit, there's no.
And it's
there's not-
propped
and
on
there-
your property.
And that's a civil action between you and them.
Okay.
That is not a city.
I had
thing.
somebody else ask me that because they were talking about some of
Just like the,
the, oh gosh, the tarps and stuff that
Yeah.
are hanging and.
yeah, the fence lines on 367 and other places, one has replaced their fence, I noticed the other day, but there's still some that are still down and are down, and we have nothing in any ordinance or regulation or anything that requires us to force them to put a fence back up after it's been torn down.
Is there gonna be something in the UDO coming up?
Not even that.
Can we
Don't
not
believe so.
implement something?
No, I don't. We are looking at some different federal, my code enforcement guy is very, very good at this stuff. And we're looking at different standards that may allow us to force that issue. But to get into forcing people to fix a fence, that may be an issue on its own. But
Even if there's a pool.
pool's different. If there's a pool, that's right, we can make a case for that. Pool's different. Zellas, if you have noticed on Facebook, has adjusted their fuel surcharge, and I got an email today from them. They're going to drop the fuel surcharge for the city of Ward this month. So starting next month, there'll be no fuel surcharge on top of that. So that's good news. And if you notice in Metro Plan, Metro Trends, we put it out on Facebook and everywhere. We are now estimated at being 6,815. We are now the 10th largest city in the Metro Plan area, the fastest growing area in Metro Plan area with a rate of 12.6 since the census, and our 2030 estimated population should be over 9,000. So we had to prepare. Some traffic areas concerns, I'll just let you know that we're looking in on Peyton in the school. We've contacted RDOT about possibility of having a turn lane installed there where I have one of my employees out there every day and every afternoon over the last week videotaping and doing vehicle counts and trying to get some data together to turn into RDOT. Highway 319, 367 intersection right up here. We've asked RDOT to conduct a traffic study on whether or not a four-way stop and or a traffic light might be appropriate there. And they have been contacted also about a traffic light study for Highway 319 and 38. So we are looking into these things. New construction, this is a heads up. Hasn't gone to Planning Commission yet. It will on August meeting for the first two. A preliminary plat on Windermere, which is out there in Wilson, Wilson Loop and Sally. That's what we just talked about earlier. Planning Commission talked, Jerry talked about one side street where they bought the other side. So we're looking at 30 houses down there with a detention pond in that area. And then developer brought us a preliminary plan for Moonlight Meadows off Moon Road, which is kind of right across the street, touches where Blackstone's the name of the Blackwood area over there. 559 houses.
Right across the street from Margie.
Yes, right across the street from Margie. Exactly. Their first project, their first thing they got to do is annex into the city, because it does touch the city limits right there. And then I already talked to developers, they're going to annex into the city to begin with. If this goes through, they've got a bill of assurance. They are creating an HOA, so people have to pay an HOA fee and do all the HOA stuff. When I have talked with the developer about potentially having some green space in the middle of that is city-owned. We can put maybe a little park, maybe park benches, something, a green space of some sort into that area if possible. And then in September, that Highway 38 Ferguson property is coming back to the Planning Commission. We'll have to go back for a public hearing. They're re-looking at this and having two commercial parcels, 28 homes, and a neutral zone basically between the existing houses and this new subdivision. So it looks pretty nice on paper. I'll take a look at it, but it'll go for the Planning Commission first, public hearing, and then back to Planning Commission before it comes to you. And I'm having a virtual town hall meeting on 24th at 7:30, 6:30, 7:30. That is my mayor's report for today. Do we have any public comment? Yeah. I don't see any, you have something you'd like to say, sir? Yeah. Well, come on up. You're not on listing, but I'll let you speak anyway.
Daniel
Please
Ball.
Oh, it is on there.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies.
Daniel Balding's my name.
Yes, sir.
I live on Balding, and you're doing the overlay and all that. So the mailboxes is the city paying for removal and putting the mailboxes up and?
If that's part of the scope of the project, yes. But my understanding is we're not going to be moving any mailboxes.
Okay. And then are y'all doing overlays into the driveways?
No, sir. Well, there'll be, Aaron, you can correct me since you're with the firm, but there are some not into the driveway, but connecting a portion of the driveway. Is that correct? Should be.
There's a small transition piece.
Transition, that's the word, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one question.
Yeah.
And we can go on.
No, I got another thing.
On the, and this is from back before because I missed my opportunity. Back on the Eclipse thing.
Oh, yeah.
Is there a charge for Lemons doing that or?
Oh, how much is he going to charge?
Yeah, what's he charging us to do that?
He hasn't told me what he's going to charge, but he's going to charge the minimum. We've already talked about that.
I was just curious if we selected 4 engineers for the
Again, this
city,
is not an
but-
engineering item. I just wanted somebody with a CAD that could give me a drawing.
Okay.
Okay, he's not doing any engineering, no water lines, no sewer lines, no electric, nothing. Just draw me based on 40-foot width for RVs, and I forget the site for campers, but no, I needed somebody with a CAD that could draw this up. Council, I'd like to go into an executive session, talk about a personnel issue. I'll need a motion to do that.
Make a motion, we go into executive session.
Second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're going to adjourn into an executive session into my office. Yes?